Proverbs 28, the wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as lions. Hello, I'm Sheridan, and this is my friend Dylan, and we are talking about boldness, and we're going to talk a little bit about his ministry, and I thought it would be a perfect fit to do a video on boldness, because what he does, you have to be bold to do the ministry that he does. Any ministry or anything you're doing for God, you have to be pretty bold and get out of your comfort zone. But we are going to talk a little bit about Dylan's ministry. So tell us a little bit about your ministry.
Well, my ministry started as a hobby back when I was 14, and it quickly started turning into a smaller ministry 3 years ago. It turned into a full-blown ministry. I give the gospel to celebrities that I meet.
It's so cool. I think it's awesome because people think that like celebrities don't need God and that like they think they're too big, and some of them will actually receive the gospel.
No soul is more important than the other. Just because they're famous in this world doesn't mean their soul is less important than anyone else's. They need Jesus just as much as anyone else. Some are receptive, some aren't. I've actually found that some of your harder rock stars are more receptive than your clean-cut average Joe walking up and down here in Kingsport.
That's awesome. But yeah, tell us a little bit what you do when you meet the celebrities and kind of what you give them and all that.
Well, when I meet them, I always bring them a gift bag, which includes the gospel material. And an example, I have them a handwritten letter like this. This is just an example that explains the gospel based on what they believe. For instance, Mr. Trump, the first time I met him back in October of 2015, he had recently said to CNN he doesn't have to ask God for forgiveness because he believed that if you made it right with the person you wronged, you didn't have to involve God, which 1 John 1:9 tells us that we need to confess our sins.
Yes.
And then I also give them a King James Version Bible. This one is a smaller print. If they have bad eyesight, I usually go out and purchase a larger print Bible. I also give them some gospel tracts, as well as a copy of my friend Tony Nolan's book, Gasp, which comes out of Matthew 7, where Jesus is given the Sermon on the Mount, saying, "Many will say unto me that day, I've done many great works in your name, I've professed in your name, and he'll say on Judgment Day, depart from me, I never knew you." So that book talks about the importance between head and heart knowledge. Head, just knowing who Jesus is. Heart, accepting him and committing your life to Christ.
Well, what are some ways my opinion and your opinion of what are some ways we think you guys can be bold for Christ? One way I think you can be bold for Christ is just by doing something like I'm working at a Bible camp, and it's out of my comfort zone. I've really never been away from home much, and I've never really worked a zip line and stuff like that, so that's way out of my comfort zone.
Right. Yeah, sometimes, all times you have to get out of your comfort zone. If you just stay in your comfort zone, you'll never accomplish much. One way I personally think you can be bold for Christ is simply go to your church, and almost every church I've spoken at has gospel tracts that they give out. So I challenge everyone when I go to speak to grab a couple tracts and walk up to someone when you're out and just hand it to them. And if you don't feel comfortable, if you're a shy person and you're not real comfortable about going up to someone, well, just lay a tract somewhere. I have a book that actually tells stories of people who received Christ by just picking up a tract that someone had laid somewhere. So that's a good place I like to tell people to start.
Yeah, that's awesome. We just have to get out of our comfort zone, basically, and you can be bold for Christ about anything. Starting a YouTube channel is another good step. I started mine and I was a little afraid, and I started it with a couple friends to get me out of my comfort zone, and now it's just me on here. So that works. And if you can always have something to say about Christ, even if you think you're not worthy. God used so many people in the Bible that had so messed up stories and stuff like that. He can use anybody, and just don't be afraid to speak out and tell people about God.
Right. I mean, think about it. King David messed up many, many, many times, but the Bible said that King David was a man after God's own heart because he didn't let his past affect him from doing God's will once he got his life together. So don't let your past hinder you from wanting to do God's will. That can be the biggest part of your testimony to tell others about Jesus. Say, hey, I understand where you've been. I've been there myself.
Yes, I totally agree with that. But I'm going to end with this verse, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. We are in Philippians. There's a note on top of it where I bookmarked it. And we are in. There's also another verse about being bold, but I will link Francis Chan's video about it because he explains it better. So, and it was a long passage that you had to go into lots of detail about. So this verse is Philippians 2 Philippians 1 verse 20. According to my earnest acceptation and my hope that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but that with all boldness, as always, so now also Christ shall be magnified in my body, whether it be life or by death. That's the verse. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and see you guys later. And if you want Dylan to do more videos on this channel, give this a thumbs up. Bye!